Welcome back, and thank you for joining me. This is an unusual one, especially for Talk TV, she said, laughing mischievously. Let's talk about Brexit. Oh, gosh, I mean, don't we all talk about it ad nauseum, but we don't normally talk about it from this point of view. I had to remind myself, the UK voted to leave the EU. It was a referendum in June 2016, called by the then Prime Minister, if you recall, David Cameron. However, yesterday in London, there was a big march by people who say that Brexit was a huge mistake. Now, we're not talking about politicians taking to it. We're not talking about moneyed people. This group, National RejoinEU March, they ended up having a demonstration in Parliament Square. But the National RejoinEU March was actually put together by someone very, very different. Peter Corr is the leader. I'm going to let him explain who he is and why he decided to have this march. Joining me now, I'm delighted to say, is Peter Corr. Peter, thank you so much for your time. Like I said right at the beginning, this isn't a march run by politicians or business people or, you know, big money or media or left-wing journalists, for God's sake. What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living?
Hi, Trisha. Thanks for having me on. I am a lorry driver and I deliver bricks to building sites up and down the country. And that is it.
That's
basically
what you do. So
yeah.
why are you, part of the, why did you put together this National RejoinEU March? In your eyes, from a practical working class level, what has Brexit meant to you?
Well, it's hurting everybody. So the cost of living crisis is amplified by Brexit. So inflation, part of it is Brexit. And as I am working class, all the people I see and speak to and my friends and stuff in the real world are also working class mostly. And I see how much people are suffering in this country, even before Brexit, really. But all Brexit was done has amplified that pain to people in this country and made it worse. And it hurts working class people more than anyone because we haven't got the money to cushion us from the effects of Brexit.
So now you're a lorry driver. Does it affect other lorry drivers who normally, would be taking loads backwards and forwards from Europe?
It does, yeah, especially those guys. I mean, they're the ones that are being held up in the queues at Dover and sometimes spending literally days there. It's also affecting goods coming to this country on lorries because a lot of EU countries pay their drivers by the kilometre rather than the hour.
Right.
So they just cannot afford to sit still in one place for days on end at our ports, waiting for our non-existent customs officers to see them. So it's affected it both ways in terms of EU lorry drivers and our drivers going to the EU. Massively, yeah. I don't do that myself, but I do know drivers who do that.
You know other drivers. I saw some of the interviews with some of the people there, and there were quite a few people who had retired to France or Spain or wherever, and they said they've really been affected as well.
They have, yeah. We work with a group called Remain in Spain, who are a lovely bunch of people. And they really have been affected in so many ways. It's just, again, it's all money. The more money you've got, the more you are cushioned by the effects of Brexit. And it always leads back to it's the working class people who are most suffering because of it all. And that's what makes me so passionate about doing what we're doing, really.
So you've got Remain in Spain. Are there other sort of areas that, people probably wouldn't think about who, in your mind, have been affected adversely by Brexit?
Every sector, everything really, from hotel workers to one of my big bugbears also is the creative industry, because I love music and I do a bit of DJing too, just not professionally or nothing. And the music business has really been hurt. And again, it's down to the money thing. If you're in a rich family, you can probably afford to pay these huge extra costs in order to, because small artists used to make their name by traveling around Europe in small venues and getting a name.
I was going to say I was in a band. I was in a band in my teens, and we just got in a van, and we most musicians, I'd say, the smaller musicians toured Europe and what have you, and went from club to club. We wouldn't be able to do that. And I know that is an issue for orchestras as well, and small orchestras and musicians. And you say, and I know it's because we've done interviews with the hotel industry, because hotel workers and crop pickers as well, that so lots of individual ones. But normally we hear from people, I guess, who aren't working class. I'm just having a look at the pictures here. There were a hell of a lot of people there, weren't there?
There was. You wouldn't believe it reading some of the media reports this morning, to be honest with you, but there was tens of thousands of people there. We completely packed Parliament Square, and there were people going up to Whitehall as we come into the march. And as you said at the start, every single penny to pay for what we did, so getting a big stage, screen and everything there, was all from tiny donations from over 1,000 different people to make it happen. There's no big money, no organisations in it whatsoever, and we all turned up because we're all feeling the same thing. It's not going to get better. We just have to admit that what we've done is a mistake, and take our country back, if you like. It's also. Well,
do you think that the UK should rejoin, or do you look at what Labour's putting forward? With Labour's talking about not rejoining but forging closer links to Europe. Do you see that as the answer, or you think that's not far enough?
I don't think it's far.
Oh, sorry, we lost you there. Sorry, say again.
Stop. You've repeatedly said, even before Brexit, we can you hear me now? The position is not strong enough at all, because it's cherry picking the EU deal, and it's not fair to do that. It's a really strong system they have in the EU. And to try and cherry pick it when the EU have said repeatedly that that's not going to happen, it is silly. If we're going to do things like, for example, join the single market or customs union, we'll be in that, and we'll have no say in it whatsoever. And that's, if you remember some of the Brexit arguments, it was let's take back control. That's the direct opposite of doing that, by joining parts we was already in but having no say. It's like we leave the EU to have less control. Just rejoin the EU and take part properly this time. Don't cherry pick the deal. Don't have opt-outs of this and that. Just go there.
Yeah, but what about Peter? What about people who say, well, hang on, the British public voted to leave, and it's a democratic country, so that's what happened.
It is what happened, yeah, and we did vote to leave, and we've left. And now we can all see with our own eyes what life is like outside of the EU, and compare.
So hang on, are you saying that Are you saying that if maybe people wouldn't have voted to leave if they had seen a true picture? Do you think people were, I don't know, cons?
100% do, yeah. I think a lot of lies were told to get Brexit over the line, and I think with certain lies, the £350 million a week for the NHS, for example.
Oh God, yeah.
If certain lies like that exactly was not told, I don't think Leave would have won in the first place. And now we can all see with our own eyes. And for me, the Rejoin campaign is not an extension of the Remain campaign either. It's a brand new campaign. Remain lost. We did leave the EU, we're out of the EU, and this is a campaign to rejoin the EU based on what we can see with our own eyes being out of the EU and comparing it to what life was like in the EU.
So what are you asking for? The bottom line is what you're asking for, another referendum, or what is it you want? Because as it stands, if any political party decided to do what you're saying, they're going across against the democratic vote. So it would only be by having yet another referendum that there's any possibility of it being reversed.
Well, I mean, going back to what I just said about me seeing Rejoin as being a new campaign, I don't see it as another referendum. I see it as the first referendum on rejoining the EU. It's not trying to reverse anything. It's a new campaign based on different facts, really, that we can... Again, I'll go back to, we can all see now what it was like. We know that certain things...
Oh, I think we've lost... I think we've lost you there, but we very much get the idea. But that was Peter Corr, leader of the National Rejoin March.